He betrayed me in a way I never imagined possible. I trusted him with my whole heart, built my life around him, and still, he made me feel like a stranger in my own home. The man I loved, the man the world called a billionaire genius, wasn't the man I thought he was. It started the day I hired a maid. I thought I was just bringing someone to help me manage the house. But what I really did was open the door to the darkest secret of my marriage. Her name was Clara Young, quiet and too perfect. When she first walked in, even the air in the house changed. I didn't realize it then, but that moment marked the beginning of the end of everything I believed in. My husband, Daniel, looked at her like he'd seen a ghost. I noticed it immediately, the slight pause in his breath, the way his hand tightened on his coffee cup. He tried to hide it, but I saw it, and that single glance haunted me. I remember thinking, why is he looking at her like that? She was just a maid. But something deep in me whispered, no, she's not just a maid. For the first few days, I tried to ignore it. Clara was polite, quiet, and did her work perfectly. Too perfectly. She moved through the house like she already knew where everything was. Sometimes, I'd catch her standing by the big window in the living room, staring out at the city, her eyes full of something I couldn't name. And Daniel, he suddenly started staying home more often. The man who used to spend 16 hours at the office was now working from home. At first, I was happy. I thought maybe he wanted to spend more time with me, but his eyes were never on me anymore. Every time Clara passed by, I saw that flicker again. The look of recognition. The look that broke me. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked into his office after dinner, pretending to bring him tea. But when I opened the door, he wasn't alone. Clara was standing there, facing him. Her head was bowed, her hands trembling. "You said you'd tell her," she whispered. My heart stopped. Daniel's voice came low and sharp. "Not now. She can't know yet." I dropped the tray, the cups shattered across the floor, and both of them turned. "What can't I know?" I asked, my voice shaking. Daniel's face turned pale. "It's not what you think," he said quickly. "Then tell me what it is," I demanded. But he didn't. He just looked at Clara like, asking her permission, and that look said everything. My hands were cold. My mind screamed that something was wrong, that they were hiding something from me, something huge. Clara stepped back, mumbling, "I'm sorry," and ran out of the room. Daniel reached for me, but I pulled away. "You owe me the truth," I said. His voice was calm to calm. "You're overreacting," he said. "Go get some rest." Rest. How could I rest when my own husband and a stranger were whispering secrets behind closed doors? That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in bed, staring at the ceiling, every sound in the house making my heart race. Around midnight, I heard footsteps outside our bedroom, soft, slow, deliberate. I got up and peeked through the slightly open door. It was Clara. She was walking toward Daniel's office again. My breath caught as she opened the door and slipped inside. I waited for a minute, then followed silently. The door was closed, but I pressed my ear against it. Daniel's voice came through angry, low. "You shouldn't be here this late." Clara's voice trembled. "I just wanted to see if you're okay." "I told you, we can't risk this," he hissed. "If she finds out, everything will fall apart." "If she finds out," my blood ran cold. I wanted to scream, to break the door open, but something stopped me. Instead, I backed away slowly, tears burning my eyes. I knew I couldn't confront him without proof. I needed to know exactly what was going on. Asterisk, the next morning, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled, made breakfast, and kissed him goodbye when he said he had an early meeting. But the second his car left the gate, I went straight to Clara's room. I searched everywhere, drawers, under the bed, her bag. At first, I found nothing. But then, in the side pocket of her purse, I found a small photograph. My fingers shook as I turned it over. It was Daniel, much younger, holding a little girl who looked exactly like Clara. On the back, in Daniel's handwriting, were the words, "To my little angel, Daddy loves you." I felt the ground slip from under me. She was his daughter. Then why the lies? Why hide it? Why let me live with a stranger without telling me the truth? My mind couldn't understand it. I felt betrayed, not because of an affair, but because of the secret. Because he'd built our entire marriage on lies. Asterisk, that evening, when Daniel came home, I watched him closely. He sat down at the table, smiled at me, and asked, "How was your day?" His voice sounded normal to normal. I smiled back and said, "It was fine. Clara helped me a lot today." He froze for a fraction of a second before nodding. That tiny reaction told me everything. After dinner, I said I was going to bed early, but instead, I went outside and waited in the shadows near the garage. An hour later, Daniel came out quietly, looking around like he didn't want to be seen. He got into his car and drove away. I followed him. I had to. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they hurt. He drove across town to an old apartment building in a rough part of the city. I parked a little distance away and watched. 10 minutes later, Clara appeared. She walked up to him and he hugged her. I couldn't hear their words, but I saw his hand wipe tears from her face. I couldn't breathe. My chest ached so badly it felt like something inside me was breaking. I wanted to burst out, scream, demand an explanation, but I didn't. I just watched as the man I thought I knew comforted another woman like she was part of his heart. Asterisk, when he returned home. I was sitting in the dark living room. He walked in, startled. "You scared me," he said. I looked at him and whispered, "Who is she really, Daniel?" He froze, then tried to smile. "She's just the maid." I laughed bitterly. "Really? Because I saw you hugging your maid outside that apartment tonight." His face drained of color. "You followed me. You lied to me," I said. "For how long?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "It's complicated," he said quietly. "You wouldn't understand." My voice cracked. "Then make me understand." He rubbed his face, took a deep breath, and whispered, "She's not what you think she is." I stared at him, trembling. "Then what is she, Daniel? Who is she?" He looked at me then, really looked, with tired, sad eyes. "She's family," he said softly. "I can't tell you more than that. Not yet." Then he walked away, leaving me standing there, shattered, clutching the truth that wasn't complete enough to save me. Asterisk, that night, I sat by the window, watching the city lights blur through my tears. My mind was full of questions and fears. If Clara was family, why did he hide her? Why did she come as a maid? And what secret could be so big that even now, after being caught, he couldn't tell me the full truth? I didn't know it then, but the answers I was about to find would destroy everything: my love, my trust, and the illusion I called my life. Asterisk, the next few days felt like I was living with strangers. Daniel barely looked at me anymore, and Clara moved through the house silently, like a ghost afraid to be seen. The tension was unbearable. Every time I asked Daniel about her, he'd change the subject. Every time I tried to talk to Clara, she'd avoid my eyes. It was like they were both guarding the same secret, one that was slowly tearing me apart. I started noticing small things: Daniel locking his office door when he never used to, Clara sneaking into the garden late at night, whispering on the phone. I tried to stay calm, but my instincts screamed that something much darker was going on than just a hidden family connection. One evening, as I walked past Daniel's office, I heard his voice, angry, louder than usual. "You shouldn't have come here," he snapped. Clara's voice trembled. I didn't have a choice. "She's starting to ask questions." "Then keep her away from this," Daniel shouted. My heart stopped. Keep me away from what? I pressed my ear to the door. His voice dropped lower. "If she finds out, she could ruin everything we've worked for." Those words hit me like a slap. What were they working for? What could I possibly ruin? I stepped back, breath shaking, realizing that whatever they were hiding, it wasn't just personal. It was something much, much bigger. That night, I searched Daniel's office after he fell asleep. My hand shook as I went through his drawers, files, laptop. Everything seemed normal until I found a small black folder tucked behind a bookshelf. Inside were documents I couldn't understand: financial statements, transfers, and one photo that made my blood run cold. It was Clara, but not in our house. She was standing in front of a government building, wearing a badge, surrounded by men in suits. On the back was a date, just 6 months ago, and a seal that looked official. I didn't know what it meant, but one thing was clear. Clara wasn't a maid. She was someone else entirely. I put the photo back and quietly closed the drawer, my mind spinning. Who was she working for? And what was Daniel hiding that was so dangerous he couldn't even tell me? The next morning, I confronted Clara in the kitchen. "I know you're not who you say you are," I said quietly. She froze, a glass slipping from her hand and shattering on the floor. "I found the photo," I added. Her lips trembled. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then explain," I said. But before she could answer, Daniel appeared in the doorway, his eyes burning with fury. "Clara, leave us," he said sharply. She hesitated, then walked out quickly, wiping her tears. I turned to him. "Who is she, Daniel? And don't tell me she's family." "I know you're lying." He stared at me for a long moment before whispering, "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" I asked. He didn't answer. "You owe me the truth," I said, my voice breaking. "What are you protecting me from?" Daniel exhaled slowly. "Clara isn't just someone from my past," he said. "She's part of something I tried to leave behind years ago." His eyes looked haunted. "She works for a private intelligence firm. She came here because someone from my old life is trying to destroy everything." I blinked, stunned. Old life? What old life? He looked at me, guilt heavy in his eyes. "Before we met, I wasn't just a businessman. I was involved in something illegal: corporate espionage, government secrets. I walked away from it all when I met you. But I guess the past doesn't really stay buried." My mouth went dry. "You're telling me my husband, the man I thought I knew, is some kind of criminal?" He shook his head. "Not anymore. But someone wants to pull me back in. Clara was sent here to protect Ustu, watch the house, the accounts, everything. But if people find out she's here, it could put you in danger." I didn't know what to believe. It sounded insane, like something out of a movie, but the fear in his voice was real. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked. "Because the less you knew, the safer you were," he said. Asterisk for a moment, I wanted to believe him, but something didn't fit. If Clara was really here to protect us, why was she crying the other night? Why did she look terrified every time I spoke to her? Why did Daniel seem so tense around her? I decided to talk to Clara myself. The next day, I followed her when she left to buy groceries. She didn't go to the store. Instead, she walked down an alley behind the market and met a man in a black coat. I hid behind a pillar, watching as she handed him a small envelope. He gave her another one in return. My heart raced as I strained to hear, but their voices were too low. The man left quickly, and Clara stood there for a few seconds before breaking down in tears. I waited until she left, then walked over to where they'd been standing. The man had dropped a receipt. I picked it up. It was from a private security agency. On the back was a handwritten note. Next payment after confirmation. Payment. My stomach twisted. She wasn't protecting us. She was being paid by someone to spy on Daniel. Asterisk that night, I confronted her again. This time, I didn't hold back. "I saw you with that man," I said. "You're lying to both of us." She froze, her face pale. "Please," she begged, "you don't understand. I didn't want to do this." "Then why are you here?" I demanded. "Who sent you?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "They told me if I didn't, they'd destroy my life," she whispered. I had no choice. I stepped closer. "Who are they?" She hesitated, then whispered, "The people Daniel worked for. The ones he betrayed." My mind went blank. He betrayed them. "He stole something from them," she said, her voice trembling. "Something valuable. They think it's still in this house." I couldn't breathe. "What did he steal?" Clara shook her head. "I don't know. They don't tell me everything. But they said if I didn't find it, they'd kill me." My hands trembled. I didn't know what to feel and fear, pity. "And you thought pretending to be a maid was the answer?" I said. "They knew he wouldn't suspect me," she whispered. "They said it would be quick. But then I met you, and I saw how kind you were, and I couldn't do it anymore." She looked terrified. "Please, don't tell him. If he finds out I told you anything, She stopped, her eyes widening. I turned. Daniel was standing in the doorway, his face unreadable. Asterisk for a long second, none of us spoke. Then Daniel said softly, "So you told her?" Clara shook her head desperately. "I didn't mean to. Enough," he said sharply. He looked at me, his voice low and calm. "You shouldn't have gotten involved." I stepped forward. "You think I can just stand here and pretend this isn't happening? You lied to me, Daniel, for years." He sighed, his tone eerily calm. "I lied to protect you. Protect me from what?" I shouted. "From the truth," he said. "Because if you knew what I really did, you'd never look at me the same way again." Asterisk Clara started crying. "They're coming," she said. "I heard them on the phone today. They know where you are. They're coming tonight." Daniel's expression changed instantly from cold to deadly serious. "Pack your things," he told me. "We're leaving." But I couldn't move. "Leaving? You expect me to just run?" I asked. "You lied to me about everything. Why should I trust you now?" He stepped closer, grabbed my hand, and said quietly, "Because if you stay, you'll die." Asterisk, before I could respond, we heard Itakar screeching outside. headlights flashing through the window. Then another. My heart pounded as Daniel rushed to the drawer and pulled out a gun. Clara screamed, "They're here." I froze, my body refusing to move as shadows moved outside the windows. Daniel turned to me. "No matter what happens, don't open that door," he said. And then, without another word, he ran toward the front entrance. I heard the door crash open, shouts, glass breaking, and then gunshots. Asterisk, the moment those gunshots echoed through the house, my body froze. I could hear Daniel shouting, "Get down," followed by another burst of gunfire. Clara screamed from the hallway, "They're breaking in through the back." My heart raced as I crawled behind the couch, my hands shaking so hard I could barely breathe. The air filled with the sharp smell of smoke and gunpowder. Somewhere in the chaos, I heard Daniel yell, "Run," but I couldn't. My legs refused to move. Then suddenly, Clara grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the kitchen. "We have to go," she cried. We stumbled down the hallway as glass shattered behind us. I turned once and saw Daniel, my husband, firing back at dark figures rushing through the doorway. His face was hard, focused, like a man who'd been here before. That's when I realized. He wasn't lying about his past. He knew exactly what he was doing. Asterisk, we ran through the kitchen door into the backyard, the cold night air hitting my face like ice. Clara dragged me behind the hedge as headlights flashed again from the front gate. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They came for what he took." "What did he take?" I gasped. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. "Something worth more than money." I was about to ask what she meant when we heard footsteps, fast, closing in. Daniel appeared suddenly from the side door, his shirt stained with blood. "Get in the car," he shouted. Clara shook her head. "They'll follow us." Daniel's voice cracked. "It doesn't matter. We need to move." He opened the car door, pushed me inside, and started the engine. But before Clara could get in, a gunshot rang out. She fell. My scream tore through the night. Daniel jumped out, firing back at the shadows. I crawled toward Clara, grabbing her hand. "Stay with me," I begged. She looked up at me weakly. "Tell him." "I'm sorry," she whispered, and then her hand went limp. Asterisk Daniel dragged me back into the car, his face twisted in pain. "We have to go," he shouted. I couldn't stop crying as we sped down the highway, city lights blurring past. "You got her killed," I screamed. "I told you to stay out of it." He snapped, his voice breaking. "They would have found us anyway." "Who are they, Daniel?" I cried. "Why are they doing this?" He slammed the steering wheel. "Because I took something from them that could ruin them forever. Files proof of crimes, money laundering, people they killed. I was supposed to destroy them years ago, but I kept them. I thought it was over." His hands were trembling. Clara was their insurance. They sent her to find the files. But when she saw what they'd done, what I'd done, she turned against them. That's why they came. Asterisk, I stared at him through tears. "So this whole time, she wasn't your daughter?" His eyes filled with guilt. "No," he whispered, "but she was like one. Her father was my best friend, until I betrayed him. When they killed him, I promised to protect her. And now she's dead because of me." His voice cracked as he gripped the wheel tighter. Everything I touched turns to ash. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to hate him, but I could see the torment in his eyes. For the first time, He wasn't the confident, untouchable billionaire the world saw. He was just a broken man running from his past. Suddenly, headlights appeared behind two black SUVs, speeding closer. "They found us," I whispered. Daniel's eyes hardened. "Hold on." The car swerved violently as bullets shattered the rear window. I ducked, screaming as glass rained over me. Daniel accelerated, turning sharply down a narrow bridge road. The chase was deafening, engines roaring, tires screeching, gunfire echoing through the night. "We can't outrun them," I shouted. Daniel's jaw clenched. "I'm not trying to." He swerved toward an old construction site by the river. "What are you doing?" I cried. "Ending this," he said. He hit the brakes, spun the car, and pulled out his gun. "Get out and run," he said. "No," I screamed. "I'm not leaving you." "You have to," he shouted. "I love you, but if you stay, they'll kill you too." Tears blurred my vision. "Please," I whispered, "don't do this." He looked at me one last time and said softly, "Tell the world I wasn't the monster they think I am." Then he opened the door and stepped out into the headlights. The next few minutes were chaos gunfire, shouting, the sound of metal tearing. I crouched behind the car, covering my ears. Then, in one final, blinding moment, there was an explosion that lit up the night sky. The shock wave threw me backward. When I opened my eyes, everything was silent except for the crackling of fire. The SUVs were burning. The bridge was gone, and Daniel was gone too. I woke up hours later in a hospital bed, my body aching, my mind numb. The police said there was no sign of Daniel's body, just wreckage, fire, and ashes. They ruled it an accident, but I knew better. He'd planned it. He'd sacrificed himself to end it all. For days, I couldn't move. I kept hearing his last words tell the world I wasn't the monster they think I am. But how could I, when I wasn't even sure who he really was? The mansion was sealed off as part of the investigation. Reporters swarmed everywhere, digging into Daniel's past. The headlines were "Brutal Billionaire Linked to Espionage Scandal. Hidden Life Exposed." I stayed quiet. I couldn't defend him, but I couldn't hate him either. Because, in his own twisted way, he'd loved me. He'd tried to protect me. And maybe that was his punishment. A week later, I went back to the mansion one last time to collect my things. The silence was unbearable. Every corner of that house felt haunted. As I walked through Daniel's office, I noticed something I'd missed before: a small hidden panel behind the bookshelf. I pressed it, and it opened with a soft click. Inside was a flash drive, labeled in Daniel's handwriting. For her. My hands shook as I plugged it into his laptop. A video file appeared. When I played it, Daniel's face filled the screen. He looked tired, older, broken. "If you're watching this," he said softly, "then I'm gone. I know you probably hate me right now, and I don't blame you. I've done terrible things I can't undo. But everything I did, even the lies, even Clara, was to keep you safe. They were watching us for months before she came. She wasn't supposed to die. None of this was supposed to happen. But I need you to know the truth." He paused, looking straight into the camera. "The files they wanted are in a safe deposit box under your name. Give them to the authorities. End this. And maybe then you'll finally be free." Asterisk tears blurred my eyes as the video ended. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the screen, whispering, "Why didn't you just tell me?" Maybe he thought he was protecting me. Maybe he didn't trust me enough. Or maybe he knew that once I saw the truth, I'd never look at him the same way again. Either way, he was gone, and all I had left were ashes and a flash drive full of ghosts. Asterisk, I did what he asked. I turned the files over to the authorities. The names, the crimes, the corruption, it all came out. People were arrested. Companies collapsed. The world called Daniel a criminal, a traitor, a man who destroyed empires. But I knew the truth. He wasn't a monster. He was just a man who tried to fix a past that could never be fixed. Asterisk, it's been 3 years now. Sometimes, when the wind hits the glass windows of my small apartment, I still hear his voice. Tell the world I wasn't the monster they think I am, and I whisper back, you weren't. You were the man who lied to save the woman you loved. Asterisk, because in the end, love doesn't always look like honesty or happiness. Sometimes it looks like sacrifice. Sometimes it burns everything down just to keep you alive. Asterisk, and that's the truth I live with every single day.